Alright, I'm saying all of these things are coated with a fabric that is that right there. You have your skin, or you have what they call mucosa, which is the lining of your throat, your intestines, your lung, everything has a lining where the rest of the world meets the inside of your body, or meets outside, or the membranes on your eyes, or everywhere. You have to be protected from those invaders. Everywhere has a membrane, everywhere, 100%. In these little fluid-filled highways, they call them now, these bacteria shoot back and forth to protect you. Shown it a billion times. And you have to go back to that last video. I think I referenced it, or I certainly will. This is the floppy collagen that is on all of my mud fossils. Every one of them, 100%. 100%. Now, this collagen is what they call fascia. I was going to call this process fascia facilitated fossilization, because this is nothing more than a lung with its coating on here. And it's been DNA tested and CAT scanned, and I've had anatomists look at it. There's no question what it is. It's a lung. And this is fabric, is the collagen, and it's this stuff right here. Now, what does it look like in that thing, and what does it look like in a living thing? Well, a living thing is right there. It's not living now, but it was not long ago. And it is a split cowhide leather belt. And what does it have in it? It has this exact same fabric, because all collagens are made of this. They used to call it the epithelium, but now they realize it's linked. It's a complete system. It's an organ now, they call it. Before it was just fluffy stuff that sort of cushioned you and you could stretch around a little bit and your skin would come back. No. It is a fluid-filled highway of microorganisms to save your life. That's your immune system lives in there. It's your membranes. Membranes. Use your brains. Now, let's look at what they look like in the microscope. You see it there. Now, remember, that's my belt. All right, what is a belt made out of? Its belt is made out of interstitium. It's literally made out of interstitium. It's made out of a dense form of skin. But it's also tanned. They roll it and smash it and do all these things, put a couple chemicals in it. But it still has all of these straps and balls. You see the balls? They're black. You see the straps? These are tough straps. These are just sort of fluid. Most of the tanning gets rid of a lot of that. Well, let me show you what the rest looks like when you turn it into a nice big belt. And there it is right there. So let's take a look at it in the microscope. I have to turn the lights on. All right, you can't get any more obvious than that. These are the little black balls. They're everywhere, and these are the straps. This is a belt loop, and some of the straps are pulled. Normally, they're going to look like this in a nice tanned piece of leather, but this just, fortunately, shows the strap attachments to the balls. And you can't miss. I mean, there's just no way you can miss this. This is supposed to be the interstitium. That is the skin, which is the interstitium. That is what separates that cow from the rest of the world. All right, you saw what the belt looked like. It had all those balls, all the straps, and this still had a lot of blood. This one is not tanned. This is that lung. Now, I'm going to move it around. It's completely coated with the same thing, only there's a lot of blood in certain areas. I'm going to go to the area where I extracted the blood down here. You see, you see that? You see that? That's the kind of blood you can get out of these things. I drilled a little hole down in here somewhere and extracted blood out of there. And, you know, I was careful when I did it. I used gloves, I used a mask, I used all that stuff. And I took the very dense red blood out of there. I could extract a ton of it. You just scrape it out of there, and it comes out in chunks. Now, this guy was taking specimens out of that chondrite meteorite, and he was just taking like this much. I sent quite a bit, actually, to be honest, and he said it was dense and it was excellent quality. and all three samples were the same thing. One sample wasn't quite as dense as the other ones. This was just like red, literally red blood. All right, here's that lung again. Now, I am going to change that for the fingertip that I say is a terrestrial fingertip. Okay, let's come down here. And what do we have? Well, here's what we have. The lung goes. Out goes a Z lung. In comes a Z fingertip. Now, I say that everything I have here, 100%, is coated with that feldspar. So if I look at this, I should see similarities to the lung and to the belt. Let's see if we see that. Okay, that's that fingertip coated with feldspar. Here it is in the microscope. It's exactly the same type of fabric because all collagens are that type of fabric. Some of them were put in acids and salts and they changed quite a bit. This you can still see all the fiber very well. And if I wet that, you're going to see it's just be stunningly exact as is that right there. All right, and that's the coating that coats and protects your body. Now, let's look at the blood vessels. All right, here we're going to go turn it over to the other side. See, there's the blood vessels right there. Now, I'm going to home in on it. You see that? That's the blood that leaked out the side of this fingertip. You see it is literally blood. And then there's another one right up here. Same thing, more blood. You see it? More blood. Same fabric. See that same fabric, but just blood gushed out. Now, the other side is the side I say has the veins. Hold on, I have to move everything up. You're just going to have to hold your horses, as my mother used to say. Hold your horses, hold your horses. All right, here we go. Now, we are going to be looking at the vein side. I need to clamp this little puppy. And there it is. That's the vein side. You see, it's black. The other one was red. This one here is black. And that's why it doesn't blow out. It has clamps. Now, that's one vein. Now I'm going to move down to the other vein. Coming all the way down here to this one. This is the big one. All right, let me home in on it. You see the same thing. Big round vein. All right, same fabric around it. So this is a fingertip. This is not some speculation. Same thing way down there. There's another one. That was all red artery. Because you got a ton of blood vessels in your fingers. I mean saturated with them. Now, so let's take a look at this again in Z-Day light. Okay, as I said before, this finger, which I just showed you in extreme detail, the blood, the fabric, the feldspar, everything. That's the hook. This the same thing here. We have, I'm going to show you this in the microscope in a second. This one came through space. And again, it blew out here instead of just leaked out. This one leaked out. This one exploded when it came through space. Now, I think I showed you this and these details of where these anchors were. And this just happened to be the red blood side. It blew out because it exploded. And everything else cooked off here. So what should I be able to show you? I should be able to show you some form of fabric. It's going to be blanched and burnt up a little bit, but I should be able to find some place where I can show you fabrics that look similar to what I was showing you on this one. I can obviously show you the red blood, and that's all that is red blood right here. I showed you the red blood in the microscope, but there's no way you can question it. So that I can show you. the architecture is identical. And this didn't happen by accident, these circles. Now, I don't know if you could see this on a normal human, but this is not really a normal human. This is a little abnormal, I would say. But it came through space as far as I'm concerned. So let's see if I can find you these markers. So far I found the blood, I found the hook, I found the veins, I found the arteries, I found everything. Now let's see if we can find the fabric. Alright, this is literally the flesh. This is the skin. These, I believe, are sweat pores, or at least blood vessels, one way or the other. This is the red blood. This is from that giant fingertip. Now, I'm going to put a little moisture on there, and you're going to see how alive it comes. Alright, I'm just going to squirt it on. It might come right alive, because it should be dry as dry can get. Alright, let's just keep an eye on it for a second. Oh, let me put this over here. Now, you see it getting really dark. Let me put a little brighter light on this. This is really like red blood, and this is the skin. These little spots are skin pores, basically, which is on, because this is a big fingertip, you see them. Normally you don't see them in a little fingertip. Now, so that's one spot. You see how quickly it dries up? It's sucking it right up. This is biology. That is black and red blood. Iron is blood. That's the color of iron. That's the color of blood. This is the anatomy of a giant finger. It came through space. It cooked off. Let's find some fibers that make it quite obvious. Okay, this is the same stuff. This is a little pocket I found. Now let me see if I can home in on that. Hold on, hold your horses. I am sorry, this takes a while sometimes. Pretty close. These are all those fabrics. This spot didn't burn off. Most of it burnt off. You see back over here? It's charred off of here, charred off. But there's a lot of spots. That fabric is still here. And then of course you get into where it's wet and it's obviously saturated with blood. You see that? Where did I show you where it blew out of? Alright, that's blood. Now, this down here is where it all blew out of. Look at that. It exploded right out from this area. You see that right there? It's saturated with blood. I didn't even put any water on this. That's just blood running out of there. Watch this. Oh, I'm way back here. You see that? That's biology, that's blood, that's all blood vessels. This is an anchor, a tendon anchor. That whole thing is a tendon anchor. That whole round thing. This is the cooked off fingertip from a giant that came through space. And you can see it's all burnt up here and there. But there's still spots where you can pick up on the interstitium. Now let me check out those circles. Hold on. Okay, my friends, as I have said, we need a new source of science. It cannot be done in the university system right now. They're going to take glacial pace to change over. They have to sooner or later, but they're not going to just come running to Mudfossil University doorstep, which is where the only place they're going to find truth. They don't understand physics, they don't understand history, they don't understand geology, they don't understand space, they don't understand light, they don't understand the particles that are in space, the moons, everything. It's all biology. I've shown it over and over and over. So here we have Science Nation. Now listen to this. This blew me away. This is 13 years ago or so. Now watch this. Because now I'm studying the microbiome and bacteria in life. Now, my statements have been right along that your bacteria lives in a layer of skin. Well, it's not skin, but it's a interstitium, they call it. And it's a fluid-filled membrane between you and the rest of the world. Inside of you, it's your intestine linings and your throat and your esophagus and your inside of your lungs and your nose and all that. You breach that, you're open to invasion. Now, what if you do get invaded? It's going to happen sooner or later. You're going to have bacteria come to your aid because they are the things that create the chemistry. Now, they're finding them living in what they call extremophiles in places they never had expected. And I just ran into this today, so I started looking into it. Wait till you see this. And again, it goes back 13 years ago. National Science Foundation. They got 5 comments. 13 years ago. All right? Extremophiles. They can live in places you could have never imagined. Watch.
Oh, this is so beautiful.
Check out these living corkscrews. Exotic in more ways than one. This newly discovered bacteria is what's called an extremophile, a microbe that thrives where life would seem to be impossible. In this case, the salty, alkaline mud at the bottom of dried-up Owens Lake in California.
I have personally been to many of the most hostile and extreme environments on Earth.
NASA scientist Richard Hoover knows all about extremophiles. He and his colleagues cultivate a virtual zoo of them here in his lab at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
This is a high temperature brine, and actually we do have microorganisms growing in there. You see when we're swirling.
Extremophiles.
All right, you see this? When he's talking about a high temperature brine, they're talking about geysers, hot springs. They live in the most extreme acids, salts. They even live in lava as it comes out. That's why it's so good for growing things. It's a biological product. Now watch.
Were unknown to scientists until just a few years ago. But then researchers started finding growing things in unlikely places. Inside the geysers of Yellowstone National Park and within deep-sea hydrothermal vents called black smokers. On the other hand, Hoover spends a lot of time studying extremophiles from cold regions. He's gone literally to the ends of the earth to find them, such as this expedition to Antarctica's remote Lake Untersee in 2007, coordinated through the National Science Foundation.
Wonderful find. Wonderful find. Excellent. Gotta be much better.
Once Hoover finds the extremophiles, the race is on back in Alabama to grow them. First order of business, find out what they like to eat.
There are a whole array of bacteria that live entirely on chemicals. They don't utilize light. They don't utilize ordinary food.
All right, wait a minute. Hold on a second. He says they live entirely on chemicals. That is more or less correct. Let me try to explain. Okay, these extremophiles live on temperature changes, basically. Temperature change is nothing more than pushing electrons in or pulling them out. Those hot smokers, they're forcing electrons in to some biological organism that grows down there, which is these extremophiles, and then they create other elegant patterns. Now listen to them very carefully now.
Bacteria that live entirely on chemicals. They don't utilize light. They don't utilize ordinary food.
All right, when he says they don't utilize light, light is nothing more than electrons pushing down against other electrons that are in chlorophyll, basically, in plant life. Now, this stuff is so tiny that basically almost any electron bumping into it at all, so any heat in your body or any heat pushing into it, probably, I would say, more than likely, one of the primary things that would keep this active would be heat. Now, he was down in Antarctica, so that's kind of interesting. But because he was saying they're collecting some very exotic samples. Apparently, they do die off in the heat of other regions in the world. So he's going for the very, very cold, frozen ones.
So what is NASA's interest in these extremophiles? Hoover says they may provide telling clues as to what life elsewhere in the solar system or beyond might look like. It's a field of study called astrobiology and looks at the possibility that life on other worlds might be a lot like the microbes that live in similar harsh conditions here on Earth.
I think it is quite possible that when we go to collect samples from the icy moons of Jupiter or to collect samples from the polar ice caps of Mars, we may very well find microorganisms.
He says it is even possible that over the course of billions of years, life is spread around the solar system, a sort of cosmic cross-pollination. Microbes could live in the ice deep within comets, frozen there for eons, until a collision with another planet or moon delivered it to a new home.
So
Let me just explain something to you. Look up Kentucky meat shower. Meat fell from space all over this woman's farm. And it was literally, and I have actually body parts here that came through space. I'll show them to you. Everything I can find in space is some form of a body part. Even that Willamette meteorite, that iron meteorite, all that it was a heart. I'm sorry, I think it was a lung. I'm sorry. It was a lung. But now there's a comet out there, I think it's called Psyche. It's a metal comet. That is a heart. And they're just looking at it now. You can see the aorta and all that stuff. Now, all of these comets are, and this isn't dust blowing off. This is cooking off. I've shown this many, many, many times. Now, these are extremophiles that are living here. Absolutely. They're coming to Earth. There's no question. But I think it's everywhere. We may get hit with, maybe that was how we got this recent flu. I have no clue. But there's no question that there's body parts in space. And the one guy ate a piece of this stuff in the Kentucky meat shower. He said it tasted like elk. I think that's what he said.
So it may be that when we ultimately get a chance to bring back samples of ice from the polar caps of Mars, we might find biology that looks just like Earth life, and it might be that it originated on Earth and was carried to Mars.
To test that theory, Hoover cracks open so-called carbonaceous meteorites, which are the remains of cometary debris or water-bearing asteroids that have hit the Earth. This one is part of the Murchison meteorite, which fell to Earth in Australia in 1969.
Just kind of feathery crystal.
Yeah, feathery crystal it looks like.
Being careful to avoid contamination, he examines their insides with an electron microscope.
They're older than the planet Earth, which is accepted as being 4.5 billion years in age. So I like to say that these carbonaceous meteorites are actually older than dirt.
Some of the structures he has imaged from these meteorites are intrusive.
That, my friends, is connective tissue. That is the anchor area, and this is the connective fiber. I can understand, and I understand this very, very well. I have microscopes. I've looked at all this
striking
stuff.
similarities to bacteria here on Earth.
I agree with
Could
that.
these be the fossilized remains of extraterrestrial life?
You see that right there? That's a broken a tendon fiber. All right, that's a tendon fiber.
I am convinced that what I am finding in the carbonaceous meteorites are, in many cases, biological in nature.
Absolutely. And this, I agree with them. This could very well be bacteria that's living amongst, inside the body of a creature. Now, I wouldn't suspect that this bacteria would just be roaming inside the body of a creature normally. I think this was exposed. The bacteria sort of attacked it a little bit. So now, did he just break this open? I don't know. But my stuff, well, anyway, I'll show you some of my stuff later. I have the same sort of stuff.
It is a highly controversial interpretation.
We have for a long time thought that all life as we know it originated on Earth and there isn't any life anywhere else. That's an idea, it's a hypothesis. It's a totally unproven hypothesis.
I have proven it isn't true. And anybody that has eyes to see and knows about chemistry and anatomy and everything else can see that Mars is completely littered with biological remains of giant creatures, as I show on Earth, the giant creatures. And these different areas of acids and salts are different chemistry which is in the body. There's areas that have a lot of iron, which is your bloody stuff, maybe, and metals, different types of metals that probably be in your liver. Kidneys have a lot of salts. Gallbladders and pancreas, I think they probably have acids. I don't know. I don't really follow all that stuff, but I know it's all different chemistry, and I know that all that chemistry is dictated by the ligands that attach to different molecules in those transition metal colors, which I have shown you, and I will show you again in a second. But let's let them finish up with what they're going to say.
Hoover hopes his work will help get at the truth, whatever that may be. And as interplanetary probes become more sophisticated, scientists may eventually turn up a biological sample. And then we'll know if life out there looks anything like it does here.
All right, remember now, this is 2009. This is 2009. When I was working, I wasn't working with them, I was watching very closely and doing all the same things they were doing, because as far as I know, they showed all of the chemistry, they showed all of the the anatomy, the pictures, asked a lot of questions. What's this Morse code, and what's this Mars crab, and what's this Mars blueberries? I explained them all because they're all biology. Now this goes back 3 years before they got up there. And now we have found it. And if you haven't seen it, come up here and watch it. Here it is right there. Boom. All right, finally the answer about life on Mars. The Mars crab is an artery. Same thing happens here on Earth. And I'm going to show you some things that came through space. Not this. This did. That's a little lung. And now it's magnetic because it burnt off, and now basically the red blood has turned into magnetite, which is, it's a little magnetic. This is a tiny little fingertip. Wait till I show you how the balls of the fingertip and everything are here, the apical tuft at the end. All right. This, I'll show you the collagen fibers in the microscope, how everything cooked off. This one here still has all the fibers on it. This is a terrestrial one. Didn't come through space. It's a left human lung, and it's been DNA tested human. And that right there is the depression of the heart, where the heart would have sat. It's flat as a pancake because it was in the flood, as was virtually everything I have here. All right, so I'm going to show you these things in the microscope. I'll have to wet them up a little bit. And then I'll show you some other things that are online. And I also have this one here. You see this fingertip here? That's from Earth. And this is the red blood side. This side plugs off, is the vein side. You see the exact same architecture? You see that one there plugged off just like this one did. And there's one up in here that plugged off just like that one. And then right at the tip, you have this. You have a little hook here. You see the hook? You see the hook? All right, I mean, it's very hard to miss. Now, this side here is just drizzled out. That's where the red blood was. It just drizzled out of there. And I will probably try to remember to show all this stuff in the microscope. And we're going to see this same fiber is the same fiber as is on the lung, as is on my goose. My goose was in the flood too. This is Caesar. See his feathers? Inside is basalt. It's not feldspar like it is on the outside. It's because this is collagen. Every single feldspar there is, 100%, is from aluminum and silicates, and then some other stuff may be thrown in there. But every one of them has aluminum silicates in it. So that's the key to feldspar, which coats all of these organs and these body parts. The flesh turns into mud. Very, very simple once you understand it. Now this one came through space. All right, now how can I say that? You see all of this blanched flat off here? You see this side? Remember I said that it's plugged off and plugged off and plugged off on the end. It has the hook and everything just like the other one. And the other one has the blood just ran out of it. This one, it exploded. And it exploded coming into space. And it heated up and exploded. Now don't forget, this guy ate a piece of meat that came from space. So it was still like barbecued. Now, this is all red blood. No question whatsoever. I've looked at this in every single possible way. I have microscopes. I know exactly what blood looks like. That's blood. This is an anchor. And that is the stalk of the anchor, which ran across through this fibrous strap that runs back. Now, look at this. Look carefully. Take a second. You see that round spot there? You see that round spot there? There was another round spot right here. These were the anchors that hold the tendon so your fingertip can do this. You see that? And this one exploded off. It's gone. And that's what this fingertip did. It came through space. Now, I would have expected it to be more destroyed, but it depends on how it hits the space. If it's coming with the Earth, it's not so bad. If it's coming against the spin of the Earth, then you're really going to get some explosion. Now, and I have so much stuff of this stuff that it's just now become it's hard to keep doing this and have no interest from the people that are trying to teach our kids what reality is. They won't pay attention to reality. How do you handle that? I'm having a hard time with it. I got to be perfectly honest with you. Anyway, that's a bone. Same thing, collagen, feldspar, which is aluminum silicates. Inside is basalts. It's still got that little piece right there of bone. I'll try to remember to show all this stuff. But I've shown it so many times. It's just unbelievable how many times. This is a piece of flesh, and that's an interstitial flap. And that's what it looks like. It's flesh in the body. A lot of connective tissue. This is a tough spot. And that's the flap that holds on. I have anatomical look at this. I'll try to remember to show you that. When you get old, your memory goes. I do the best I can.